The late funk master Rick James said in one of his songs, "Laying in the bed, coming straight from the head, nothing else need be said, so funk." The apostle and evangelist John in 3 John 1 and 2 says, "I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers." Both men are delivering their soul, delivering their desire, delivering their dream. One man's desire is from the bed of foolishness, and the other man's desire is from the heart of God. Join me in analyzing the dreams as we continue in the Money Series.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Blessings on your life. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we are going to rejoice and be glad in it. As you can see, as promised, I am doing a little shifting and rearranging of things as relates to my ministry page. And so we are in the process of revamping that, as you can see. So today we are going to continue because I got to put a couple gallons in a pint. Seems like, and I'm running into this problem all the time. But we're going to continue in the Money Series, and today we're going to talk about analyzing the dream. Our last conversation, we talked about it was only a dream, and one of the predominant or prevailing questions in there was, whose head are you dreaming from? Are you dreaming from your head? Are you dreaming from another person's head? Are you dreaming from the media? Are you dreaming from God's head? Whose head are you dreaming from? And the reason why that came about is because so many people are being led and directed from areas that they don't even realize. And so oftentimes it's an invisible string, or it's an invisible attachment that's driving you in the direction that you're going. And you need to come into a saving knowledge of that and get to a place where you can make your own decisions in life. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is understand the mind of God. And there's inside of God's head, there is something for you. And so God will give you a dream. However, we need to walk through that and understand that more fully. So we come to today's message, and we want to dive into it just a little bit more with some critical thought. And so we name this one analyzing the dream. And so as you can see in my intro, we have a clip or a little message from my friend back in the day, because I used to roll with my brother Rick James. And so not so much that song. That song was I forget the name of that song, but in that song, Call Me, that song was called Call Me Up. But in that particular song, he had a verse in it, or I don't even know what you call it, but it said, laying in the bed, coming straight from the head, nothing else need be said. So funk. Um, and so I took that because as I was thinking about this message and I was thinking about the series, I'm trying to communicate something to you. And so here it is. You see the caption and you see this guy, not like this, but he's laying in the bed. But in the bed, he's dreaming. The pillow represents a place of rest, but it also represents a place of communication, a place of download. And so Rick says what he was doing was laying in the bed. And then he says, coming straight from the head, nothing else need be said. So funk. So in other words, so funk it was. Now, my question and the reason why I brought that into my intro was what I want to ask you is how are you or how would you profit from that? Now, there's some things that we need to look at. We need to look at Rick James. We need to look at his life. We look at his lifestyle. We need to look at a whole lot of things that was going on. And we transpose that into things that we are listening to, things that have been laying in the bed and it's been coming straight from their head, whether it be media outlets, whether it be, celebrities, what and whoever it may be. At the end of it, was there any profit in it for you? Was there any profit? So when we look at Rick's life, you look at Rick. Rick was, he was a funky guy, right? He had this music that appeared to be very great, had a nice sound to it. It was very rhythmic. It was very funky, and so you could move and you could groove to it. You could make babies to it. It was romantic at times. It was soulful. You could dance. So it did things for your emotional state. It did things for not, I won't say for, but to your soul. It did things to your soul. But so and even with me, when I look back and I look at what did my life profit from that, because I used to love to listen to Rick James and Tina Marie and all that. Some of y'all probably don't even remember all that kind of stuff, but that was back in my day. And so, but when I look at that, I look at the direction that I went to or went into as a result of let me turn this down, as a result of listening to my friend, the funk master, Rick James. And so when I look at that, I got into illicit things. I was going places that I shouldn't have went to. I wasn't keeping no money in my pocket. So, that's the evaluation, that's the analytic, that the path that I want us to go down in terms of as we look at this money series, it is more than just money. Because so too many of us, we just like, well, I want the money, but money is attached to so many different things. And again, we go back to one of my crowning scriptures. The mantra is found in Ecclesiastes 10 and 19, where it says, money toucheth, or it has a relationship with all things. Money does. So when you say that and you say, well, I'm trying to get it, then we have to look at it in terms of what other relationships do you have out there that may bring money to you or redirect money into another direction. So it impairs that money that you should have. So Rick James, for me, in that little intro, it became something that I thought was what was good. And I looked at it and I reflected back on my life, and from a profit standpoint, it didn't do a whole lot of good. In fact, I think when Rick James, those songs that he was making came out, I may have been in like the 10th or 11th grade, somewhere right around there. But I do remember riding around in a car with a friend of mine. He's dead now, But I remember the music of Rick James in the car. And when we was in the car, just by the grace of God, because we was drinking Coke 45 and bull, some kind of bull beer, malt liquor, something like that. And we was well, he was, but I was in there, so I was having the contact and he's smoking weed. And so that was, I was a kid and I was going down this pathway. And so a lot of y'all going down the same pathway. You might be going down it with maybe the Kardashians. You might be going down it with Beyonce or Jay-Z or old school Biggie or whatever it may be. Whatever that you are into right now, maybe like I say, a media outlet, whatever that may be. I'm only bringing this to you so you could use that as a reference point to evaluate. Okay, I want to measure. I want to do an audit of what that outlet, what that information, what that relationship has done to my soul and to my spirit, and have I benefited from that? Okay, that's what it's about. Okay, because in addition, what I also looked at is I likened Rick James with, and I keep on saying Rick James. I really don't want to talk about him, but I put him in my intro. But I contrast him with a garden. I know that sounds strange, but I contrast him with a garden. And I want you to view this contrast in a way that you live out your life. Because I thought about the place that a lot of us live. Like, if you live out in the suburbs, or if you go to Disney World, or you go to Busch Gardens, or wherever you may go, when you go there, you look at the aesthetics of a thing, you look at the beauty of a thing. And when you go into these type of gardens, they invest, you even spend a whole lot of your money, and you don't get to touch the garden. You don't get to pull a flower out. You don't get to do only thing you can do is walk past it, or you can ride past it, because it's only for your viewing. It's only for your viewing. And I'm saying that because a lot of things that has perpetrated, that it's so wonderful, that it's so beautiful, it's so lovely for you, it is perpetrating something that it's really not. And what I mean by that, it gives you a feel good feeling, but it doesn't do anything for you. It does not produce anything. Right now, you can ride past my house, and somebody might ride past it aesthetically, and they say, man, well, I love that landscaping. But that landscaping is for me. That landscaping benefits me. That landscaping is something that I invested in. You will not benefit off of the money, the design, the architecture, all that stuff. You will not benefit from that as you ride past my house. In fact, you can't come up to my house unless, you could, but it's private property. So I would have to give you permission. And all I'm trying to get you to see is it's for my benefit. It's not so much for your benefit. So when you look at different things that you invest your time and your attention to, like maybe songs, like maybe pictures, like maybe TikTok and all that stuff, somebody's benefiting from that, and it may not be you. Okay, it may not be you. Now you can put up a reel and all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, Rick James did the same thing. I evaluated my life against that, and it did not profit me anything. Okay, so I'm trying to get you to see that contrast. It may just be a picture. It may just be a picture. It may appear to be a beautiful picture on the outside without anything to compare it to, without any wholesome direction, and that's what we need. So when we look at this, we also look at this idea of getting money. We look at this idea of getting money, and one of the things that I just wanted to touch on, because I kind of do like y'all, but I do like you do, and this is not an indictment. I'm not pointing the finger and saying that, you know, every people messed up or that is bad or that you're wrong. I'm asking you to measure. I'm asking you to do an evaluation. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll go to YouTube, I'll go to Facebook and all that kind of stuff. Most of the time I'm not going there for that because the garden that I have is a garden. If you was to come into my office right now, my office looks like a mess because gardens that are going to be life-giving, they're messy. They're not beautiful. See, in order for somebody to benefit from what you're going to put out, if you go and you look at a garden at Busch Garden or in Florida at Disney World versus somewhere where somebody can go and get cucumbers, onions, tomatoes, all that kind of stuff out of it, that garden don't look so great. That garden is dirty. That garden is it looks like somebody's there and they are in that garden. They are doing stuff day in and day out. Hence is when you come here where I'm at right now, I'm not out on YouTube and Facebook and all that doing this, that, and the other. And if I am out there, I'm doing it so I can bring something to you. So I use that to gauge where people are. But then I take that information and I bring it back and I make this my garden. But my garden is to now do something, produce something that's going to give life. I want to give life. And so when if you get a chance, well, you won't, but if you have the privy to come into the space, you'll see that it is a working environment. It's not an environment where you can just look back and say, oh, that is so cute. Look at that office. That it is so beautiful in there. No, you go and you say, oh my God, that is so junky. But at the end of it, what's coming out of this junky space, what's coming out of this dirt, what's coming out of all these rows, what's coming out of all these seeds and all this soil and all this fertilizer and all this stuff that I have everywhere in terms of books and information, it is going to produce something that's going to come in and bring healing. It's going to be a balm in Gilead. It's going to bring you sight. It's going to give you vision and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to benefit you. So I'm saying all that to say this, that most of us, when we look at this and we say, well, oh my goodness, he's talking about the money series again. And I am talking about the money series. And I told you that we was going to get to what you consider to be the good stuff. But I was on YouTube. And while I was on YouTube, I was looking at the good stuff. But I knew I couldn't get to the good stuff, but I was looking at the good stuff. And I went to this site and I got reservations about even telling you about the site because so many of us feel like, well, let me go to that site because I know they're going to be talking about something a whole lot better than what Donnie talking about. And that stuff he talking about, you got to wait on it. Okay. This stuff here, it appears as if you can go get it right away. But I'm going to get to that in a few minutes. So I went to this site and the YouTube video was called The Vault. And they were talking about things that I had knowledge of, but I wanted to really hear. And these brothers was very knowledgeable. And so the short of a long story is they were talking about different investments, dealing with insurance policies and this, that, and the other, and stock investments and credit cards and all that stuff. You know, it was different strategies out there that you can use in order to maximize potential profit. Okay. And so at the end of it, though, the thing that got my attention, now they was talking really good, but at the end of it, what got my attention was he said, you can visit my website. So he gave you a teaser. And at the end of it, he says, you know, we have these classes. And kind of like, you know, I've been thinking about doing a master's class, but it's like a class, maybe like a master's class. But in it, you know, you're going to spend $1,500 to $2,000 to $3,000 to get this information, to get this book. Well, they've went through this. They've mastered their commercial. They've mastered their presentation. And so when they give it to you, by the time that hour is over with, you like, oh my goodness, I really want this. And so where and how do I sign up? But you sign up, the catch is that you're going to have to spend some money, and you're going to spend a considerable amount of money. And most people that's poor, They don't have $1,500 to $2,000 to $25 or $3,000. They don't have that to give away. So we still, again, we kind of walking in circles. One of the reasons why is because what they're selling you is hype, and I don't say it's a fairy tale because it can be actualized. But the other thing, they're talking to poor people that, in many instances, that don't have that. So you still kind of locked into a conundrum, so to speak, right? Because I just can't go out and do that, but then I have a desire to have it right away. So they're pitching their little spiel to get you. It's all about, do you want the one guy said he had the Rolls Royce, he had these $250,000 sports cars, he had $2 million houses in different cities and all that stuff. And so when we hear that kind of stuff, this is what I'm talking about. This is the Rick James piece. It's the intro to this message, because when we hear that, is we start to dream. That's what was last week's message was about. Whose head are you dreaming from? So when you get on there and you hear all this stuff, yeah, it sounds really good. But now I want to back you up and say, okay, now let's go through the process. I'm dealing with that directly right now with some people that's in my life, and they are being positioned to lay claim on some money, but I am betting a whole lot that ain't gonna last. And the reason why is for the simple reason that they won't back up and go through these steps, because you can't skip the steps. You can't go from nothing to stardom. You can't go from zero to being rich. Now you can do it. You can hit the lottery, as I often say about Mike Tyson. You can do those things, but how long will it last? And so that's where we need to get to. We got to get to how long will it last? Because what we want to do is put the cart before the horse, put the buggy before the horse. And you can't do it like that. It is a process. It is a process. So now I give you the boring piece, but I give you the piece that is going to solidify you in order for you to get into what God wants in your life. And so we're going to analyze a dream today. Again, we go back to what was God's heart. God's heart in Exodus 3, 3 and 8 was, he said that I wanted, well, he said, I wanted to bring you out into a wealthy place, to a land of milk and honey, a land that was overflowing with milk and honey. So he tells them the desires. But then as you read on, he gets to a place, he says, my desire was to bring him out immediately. You see what I'm saying? It's this thing. He says, I know that if I do that, they are not going to be able to maintain it. So he says, but peradventure, you see the Philistines, and the Philistines, they represent opposition. And the opposition could be, just your discouragement, your lack of aptitude, your lack of self-esteem, your lack of a skill set. It could be where somebody has told you that you can only go so high. They have put a ceiling or limitations on your life, whatever it may be. It could be a relationship that you're in. When you look at, you see, I got 4 kids and I'm a single mother and ain't nobody gonna want me, whatever that is. So those become Philistines in your life. And he says, if you're going to continue this type of thinking, I can't bring you into the place that I want to bring you in. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take you by way of the backside. I'm going to have to take you in the desert, and you're going to go around and around. And the desert is a place to process you. That's a place to keep the horse out in front of the buggy. Okay, we're going to get there, but you can't do it in reverse. All right. And then if you notice in scripture, most of them, they never got a chance to enter into the promises of God because they could never get it. They never got it. And so what I'm trying to do today is to help you to get it, so you don't find yourself just you in a hurry to do nothing, in a hurry to do what? Because you're not equipped. And so this is a platform that is going to fortify you. That's the word I want to use. It's going to fortify you and give you the tools, give you the acumen, give you the spirituality, give you the practicality to get you to the place. And once you get to the place, you become the king or the queen. In other words, you become the leader. You can maintain it. You become a manager. You become a governor. I mean, it's yours now. You have ownership for real. You know the business. You know your work inside and out. All right, so that's kind of where we are. And so today, real quick, we are going to, well, hopefully it'll be quicker. We are going to analyze the dream, and we're going to contrast that against what I've already said, which is maybe a dream of Rick James, or a dream of, like I said, I don't even know, Cardi B. I don't even know all these people out there now that a lot of folks are ascribing to. You ascribe to the wardrobe, you ascribe to the way they walk, the way they talk, you ascribe to the nails that they put on, to the wigs that they wear, lipstick that they put on there, whatever it may be. And I know this kind of sounds like I'm a chauvinist right now because I'm highlighting a lot of girl things, but I don't mean it like that. It's just what is pronounced. It's what's out in front of me right now. Because guys, they seem to be a little more subtle. Same problem though. Because the guy's issue is laying in the bed. The guy's issues won't leave home. The guy's issue is he stays on mama's pat. That's the guy's issue. The guy's issue is always feeling like they are entitled. Mama, let me have the car. I gotta go. Come on, mama, give me some money. Come on, mom. Don't want to go out and work. So it's just as critical, if not worse. Okay. And not only that, with a guy, and I guess the reason why I focus on girls a little bit more is because girls, they have more to lose in terms of an investment, especially when you deal with a relationship. A guy can easily walk away. All right. Now you can sin for him, sin after him by the system. You can, but for the most part, he can just kind of walk away. With a girl she sets into place. If she gets pregnant, if no matter whatever the issue is that she's going through, most of the time it's out front and on center. So it's a little harder on her. And then when you see them, they're masquerading around in the onesies now and all that kind of stuff. And it's so appetizing for the little boys out here that ain't got nothing to say, ain't got nothing to do. But the girls, being foolish, they respond to it. And the boys come up and they speak nothings, just sweet nothings. Ain't even sweet, it's bitter nothings into their ear. And so it's just grievous to me. And I wish I could do more about it. And so anyway, we want to bring you out into a wealthy place, a wealthy and more holistic place. And so Joseph's dream was from a wealthy place. Joseph's dream, now, because we want to contrast the dreams of the world and from the bed of do nothing to a Joseph dream, which was a godly dream. And we're going to find Joseph's story in Genesis, the 37th chapter. Find it in 37, find it in 40, 41, and we go through there. I am not going to do an expository detail on that. I just want to bring some things to your attention because I want you to understand what it's going to take in order for you to get there. Okay. A God dream is going to require a lot. A God dream is going to require a lot. So I wrote down a couple things that the dream requires and the dream entails. One is the dream is going to be, this is at the beginning now, at the beginning. The dream is going to be ignored, is going to be disrespected, is going to be forgotten. It's going to be forgotten, and it's going to be full of rejection. The dream is going to be ignored, disrespected, forgotten, and full of rejection. Now, I said that because I want you to ask yourself the question, can you handle the dream? Now, this again is in contrast to the dream that's on the bed, the worldly dream. Because the worldly dream, it seems like it gives you a benefit. The reason why I gave you the whole garden thing. It looks good from a distance. It looks good, but you can't really touch it. And when I say that you can't touch it, I mean that if you do get a chance to touch it, it's you're never going to own it. You're never going to own it for real. Even when you look at the life of Rick James died prematurely. Biggie, the notorious B.I.G., he died prematurely. The other guy that they say was fighting, them two was fighting, beefing. I forget their names. He popular guy, real popular. He died prematurely. Do you see what's going on? So in other words, this is what I mean by it looks like it's beautiful, but it don't last. All right. You may get a taste of it. You may be able to bite it. You may even be able to say, good. But how long is that going to last? What I'm trying to get you to see is generational wealth. A good man leaveth an inheritance not only to his children, but his children's children. Okay, the Bible don't even mention a good man's children because it's a given. It goes right into his children's children, his children's children. That's what it says. It don't say to his son and to his daughter. Okay, why? Because it's got to go to the son and daughter if it's going to go to his children's children. You see what I'm saying? So that's legacy, and that is longevity. So when we look at this, we say, now, how does God bring a dream to me? And can I handle the opposition from the dream and don't run away at 100 miles an hour because I'm being ignored, because I'm being rejected, because I go to prison and I interpret a dream and we make a pact or an agreement that you gonna tell that I gave you the interpretation of the dream and you forget. That's the forgotten piece. Because see, a lot of us we get offended that we go out and we do our part, we help somebody, and they say, oh yeah, you scratch my back, I'm gonna scratch yours. It don't always work like that. Sometimes somebody else will get out and you still locked in, and you thought that they was your friend, only to find out that they really wasn't a friend of yours. You only find out all this at the end. That's the reason why you have to go through the process. That was the reason why the children of Israel had to keep walking around the desert. That's the reason why you can't put the cart before the horses, because everything has a systematic component attached to it, and you have to go through the process. So you have to ask yourself, can I handle being disrespected? How was Joseph disrespected? He was disrespected by his brothers. And that came by the way of jealousy. That came by the way of envy. These are some other pieces that go along with it. I mentioned that briefly in the last message. So jealousy and envy, that leads to rejection. Why? Because I don't want you to have more than what I have. But see, some of that Joseph brought on himself because he was talking too much of his business. He didn't need to talk about that. His father and him both brought it on him. That was the pathway to wealth for the nations, because ultimately Joseph was going to be the governor and going to be responsible for feeding a whole lot of people. right? But in order for him to do that, even though we don't want to go through, but sometimes we got to go through, and sometimes we say things that we shouldn't say, but that's all by design, and God is orchestrating that too, because he said, I'm going to use you, I'm going to use your mouth to get you to the place where I want you to be. And you sitting there and you telling people things about you in innocence. You're innocent. I don't mean that about it's just that I had a dream, but you don't know how what you're saying to somebody else is going to affect them. And then they are going to form an opinion and start to treat you a certain way. All right. So now, so you have to ask yourself those questions. Are you able to be ignored? Are you able to be disrespected, forgotten, and or rejected? Okay. Another thing in here, I put down that the dream is long suffering. The dream is long suffering. Now, with that, I want to let me bring you current to something that I want to get to at the end of the money series. Long suffering means this. We are right now dealing with a what we call a bear market in the stocks and all that stuff. We're dealing with inflation like crazy. It's a whole lot of things that's going on as it relates to numbers. It's a whole lot. And so when you look at that, long suffering means that you have to be willing to ride it out. You got to be willing to ride it out. Right now, there's a whole lot of blue chip stocks that have plummeted. When I say plummeted, if I didn't know and have faith and trust and have a little bit of knowledge in some of this stuff, I would have packed my suitcase and ran a long time ago. But knowing what a bear market brings, juxtaposed to a bull market, you have to be able to adjust. Okay, so a part of this is long suffering. It's going to take some time. That's basically what I'm saying. Is it's going to take some time. Right now, it ain't a quick get rich atmosphere. You ain't gonna get it. You're gonna look at it's a whole lot of stuff that's going down, 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 down. So when I sit and I talk to you, and when you hear some of these media outlets and they're telling you that, oh yeah, this is gonna be dope, blah blah blah. You can get rich. You can be able to drive in a Lambo, all this stuff. I'm just saying. All right, you have to put a piece of a realistic expectation with it and analyze everything that's going on in your world. A God dream is spiritual and political. A God dream is spiritual and political. What do I mean by that? That means that number one, it's coming from God. When you look at, as I don't have time to go through Joseph's life, okay? But when you look at Joseph's life, God was in that. But it was also political. The political piece is when you read in Genesis 41 and 37 and 40 or through 40, you will see where Pharaoh brought Joseph into prominence, a place of prominence. In order for him to do that, Pharaoh was not a spiritual person. Pharaoh was very political. Okay. So for some of us out there that believes that is spiritual only, that I can do 3 steps to a turnaround, 7 steps to a miracle, it's more than that. There is a balance. There is a balance of the political side, the practicality side, and the spiritual side. We have to balance all this out at the same time. It all works hand in hand. Not only that, when you look at this, Joseph was a mathematician. He had to be. Because the Pharaoh, the one that was in charge, entrusted him with everything that he had. So with everything that he had, it meant that he had numbers that he had to deal with. In order for him to deal with numbers, that meant that he had to be able to count and to do more than just do additions and subtraction and maybe fractions or maybe multiplication. He had to know percentages. He had to know theories. He had to know maybe a little bit of calculus, all types of things that I am saying that we live in spaces now that we need to be able to apprehend that. Why? Because that's the mind of the king. That's what the king is looking for. So when you're out there and you're saying, well, I don't have a job and I can't do this and I want this and I want to provide for whatever, this, that, and the other. And then you start to do an inventory of yourself and say, well, can I do this? Or can I do that? Do I have a certain knowledge? And if you look back and the answer is no, I don't, then therein lies the problem. Okay. So I'm gonna say a couple more things and I'm gonna let you go. Um, Dreams of prosperity and wealth for the believer will appear with affliction. Joseph went through affliction. He was sold out. He was sold, thrown into a ditch, into a hole, into a pit, whatever you want to call it. He was sold. He was captured by the Midianites, which were merchants. And when they saw him, they looked at him as like we look at flipping houses. So then they sold him into Egypt. So they said, well, let me just flip this. But what I'm saying is, from the time Joseph was 17 until he was 30 years old, he went through various layers of affliction. And so that's another thing that I want you, and I don't want this to sound like I'm the bearer of bad news or not like that, but I want you to see this in a very realistic way as we navigate this space. I want you to see it in a very realistic way. Okay. So it's going to cost you something. You're not going to get money. And again, we talking this is the money series, but I'm just giving it to you in a different way, a different package in order for you to receive and apprehend the green stuff. Okay. Let's put a realistic expectation behind it and something that we need to do. Let's get fortified for the journey. All right. Where am I at? Okay. I'm really beyond my time. A man, system, structure, or any evil plot of hatred can't stop the dream of God. And you can reference that in 37 and 20. The Bible talks about that God will establish the dream. The Joseph brothers, they said, well, we'll do this to him and do that to him and see what comes of the dream, this dreamer. We'll see what happens. In other words, what they were saying is we're going to do our part to stop his part. But you can't stop a dream from God. Now, you can stop a dream from Rick James, and you can stop a dream from B.I.G., but you can't stop a dream that is coming from God. You can't do that. And so I've got several other things here that we could talk about. Preparation. A dream is not selfish. A dream is giving. A dream will feed the multitudes. That's what I meant even when I'm talking about the aesthetics, because one garden is a garden of flowers and you can't eat no flowers, but another garden is a garden of vegetables and everybody can benefit from that. That means the squirrels, the rabbits, the deer, everybody. You're doing something to promote life, not just to human beings, but life to everybody. And so the question is, what are you going to establish and what are you going to hold fast to? What are you going to do? So I hope that you got something out of this message today, a little something out of it. I hope that I've done it somewhat justice in analyzing the dream, contrasting the difference between a worldly dream and a godly dream, and the things that you would have to go through to fulfill a godly dream to get to the wealthy place like Joseph did. Ultimately, he was in charge. Ultimately, his brothers did bow down before him. His father did bow down before him. All that stuff, it did come to pass. But it came to pass, Joseph had the right spirit. Now, he may have tested them in the process, but he had the right spirit. And what was God doing? God was fulfilling purpose. That was the other thing that I failed to mention, that a God dream is saturated with purpose. A worldly dream is saturated with selfishness. Purpose and selfishness. There's a difference. And so I hope that you can take some of this today and wiggle it, weave it in and out of your life, and make some sense out of it, and help it, and let it help you to to go down the road and to make your journey a bit easier, a bit more doable. Yes, in Jesus' name, I'm praying to that end. Remember this, men and women of God. The worst is over. The best is yet to come. Your quality of life is getting better and better and better. Because of that, you're going to live and not die and declare the works and the will of the Lord. And until next time, this is Face to Face, and I'm out until Sunday, if the Lord says the same. Be blessed and have a good week.